Hey guys, it is Melissa and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Melissa Ellen. I do true crime videos. My intention is to always focus on missing persons and unsolved cases, and that's what I have for you today. Missing and completely unsolved with absolutely no leads to work on, really. So, first of all, thank you for 10K. I mean, I know I said it in the last video, and I'm probably going to say it in the next video, but how do you not say thank you for that? I am so excited. So, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. So here's the case of Jenna Van Gelderen. She disappeared in 2017. She was house sitting for her parents while they were away on vacation, and she completely disappeared. Completely vanished one night and has never been seen again. So let's go and jump right into the video so I can tell you what happened to Jenna. Okay, so let me tell you the story of Jenna Van Gelderen. So she was born December 2nd of 1991. Her father is Leon and her mother is Roseanne, and she does have an older brother, Will. It was explained that after they had Will, they were so excited to have another child. It took them a while to get pregnant with Jenna, and it was a difficult pregnancy, and she was born slightly premature. Jenna was described as being loving, loyal, very goofy, funny. She bonded with people really well, but she also had difficulty with it. I'll fast forward and give you this now. So during her childhood, she was diagnosed with a nonverbal disorder. As an adult, so right before she disappeared, I think it was in December of 2016, she was diagnosed with high functioning autism. So this explained a lot of struggles that she had as a child. People didn't understand her, kids mostly. They didn't understand her way of connecting. She asked a lot of questions. She didn't understand what was happening. So this led to a lot of bullying. Kids called her names, and it was difficult for her to have true connections with people. While she gravitated to people and she had a large circle of people around her, an actual connection with people was always difficult for her, and oftentimes she was taken advantage of by people because she didn't quite grasp that they were trying to manipulate her in some way. And this led to some of the struggles that she dealt with later on. Her brother also described that she was an animal lover and just loved animals. She was addicted to them, loved them, wanted to be around them, and always took care of them. She also loved to play the piano, and mostly her brother just said she was goofy. Very goofy girl, loved to laugh, loved to be involved in a large social circle, and was really active on social media. Now, she graduated from Howard High School in 2010, and then she went to Gwinnett. I believe it's Gwinnett Community College at first, and I believe she was there for 3 years. She did have some struggles there with the learning. She couldn't quite get the grades that she needed to so that she could move forward, so she decided to transfer over to Gwinnett Technical College. While at Gwinnett Technical College, she was able to get a certificate as an office administrator, and then she went on to get a job working with her favorite thing ever, animals. She got a job as a cashier at the Pet Supplies Plus near her home, and she worked there starting in April of 2013 until February of 2017. Now, in February of 2017, she was fired from this job that she loved, and she was also charged with theft. The manager there approached her and said that they had gathered information that she had been stealing from the register over time and had stolen over $3,000. Now, she signed this paperwork and said that she did it. She even took the plea deal, which was reduced down to a misdemeanor for, I can't remember what it was for, but it was something very minimal, but she did get a misdemeanor for this. Now, her parents were very confused because this was 100% out of her character to steal. She had a job, she lived at home, and they didn't see this money coming in. So their first thought was, Jenna, who are you giving the money to? Who has you taken the money so that you can give them money? Because that was their first thought, because that was something they would expect would happen to Jenna. So they're trying to get this information from her, and she's not telling them. She's like, no. And she doesn't really want to talk about it, and she doesn't want to tell them what's going on. And so her parents decided to go through her cell phone. Now, she was still living at home, and her parents were still paying for her cell phone. It was on their plan. So her father owned her T-Mobile phone number. So he goes through her phone, and he's looking, and he's contacting her with who's this person that you're talking to? And contacting these people to ask them, what's going on? And they're getting frustrated with trying to figure out who's doing this, who talked her into stealing money and getting a criminal record. Now, this obviously frustrated Jenna because although she realizes she does have a disability that causes there to be struggle and her parents do need to keep an eye on her, she's also growing up, and she's 25 now, and she's an adult, and she wants to make her own decisions. So her parents did not know at all until after she disappeared, but she went and got another cell phone. So she had the T-Mobile phone, but she secretly had a prepaid phone from, what's it called? Not Boost Mobile. Metro PCS. So she gets this phone from Metro PCS, and that's the second phone that she's using to communicate with people. So things are getting a little weird with Jenna. She's starting to go out more often. She doesn't really have a job. She is working kind of part-time as a nanny, but it's not like what her parents were expecting of her prior, which she had went to college, went to the technical school, had a full-time job, and now she's kind of not following what she should be. And the people she's hanging out with are not like horrible people, like drug dealers just running the street, but these are not good people for Jenna. They seem to be using her, manipulating her, getting something from her, and this is always her parents' fear. And so they're trying to talk to her like, hey Jenna, these aren't the best people for you to be hanging out with. And then before we get to the next part, in April of 2017, Jenna and her father receive a Facebook message from a girl, and it's a post that was made on Facebook saying, with a picture of Jenna, saying that she's missing. She wasn't missing. It's so random. And this obviously freaked her dad out, but it freaked out Jenna too. It really upset her. So these people just aren't, I don't know how to explain them. They're just childlike, immature, playing games like you play in high school, and not the best thing for her. So Jenna ends up moving out of her parents' house, and she doesn't tell her parents where she's moving. She only moved 3 miles away off of Lenox Road into an apartment. Like, she was only 3 miles away from them. But in her, fight to prove she's grown, she doesn't want to tell her parents where she's living. So she moves in, and she tells her parents that she's just couch surfing, basically. Like, she's just living in a room. She's not very specific about what's going on. And so they're like, okay, but she's also staying with other friends. She's also staying with her parents at times. So they're kind of like, all right, I mean, whatever. She's just going to go and figure it out and stay with a friend for a while. Interesting thing, though, is that according to the video that Shauna Ray did, where she interviewed her brother Will, she was on the lease of this apartment. So again, I'm like, did somebody manipulate her into renting an apartment in her name for them? Because it gets a little fishy later on. So at this time, we're getting closer to August when she disappears. She's living kind of with this roommate, basically. She's got 2 cell phones. She does have her own car, which is a 2010 blue Mazda 6. But at the time that she disappeared, she's driving it kind of, but her insurance is lapsed on the vehicle. So she was also driving her mother's vehicle. On August 14th, okay, before she disappeared, things must not be going well with this roommate, because she ends up joining a Facebook group about looking for roommates in the Atlanta area. And on August 14th, she responds to a post about looking for a roommate and tells that person to message her. So you kind of get the idea something's going on there. So now it's on August 15th. It's the next day. And Jenna is going to house sit her parents' house for about a week and a half to 2 weeks. Her parents are going on a vacation to Canada. So she goes over to the parents' house. And the biggest deal is that not only is she just watching the house and staying there while they're gone, is they have this cat. And I believe this cat is 21 years old. I heard 19, but mostly I saw 21. 21 years old this cat is, and its name is Jessie. And Jenna's had this cat since she was a little kid. She named this cat. She loves this cat. She's an animal lover. So they need her to take care of this cat. Not only is it elderly and needs to be fed on a regular schedule, it also has an illness and it needed medication on a regular basis. Jenna didn't like giving the medicine. So Jenna was going to stay at the house, and then her brother Will was going to come over in the mornings to give the cat the medicine. And then in the afternoon, Jenna just needed to be there to let in the vet tech who was going to give the medication, because the vet tech didn't have a key. So that's the kind of the plan of what they have going on. Brother's going to come in the morning, vet tech in the afternoon. Jenna's going to stay there the whole time and take care of the cat and take care of the house. Now, another interesting thing is that Jenna did bring a friend with her. I'm not sure if the friend was there the whole time or what this was, but this friend was homeless, extremely pregnant, and didn't have anywhere to go. And she was about to have a baby. So Jenna just had a good heart. She loved people. And it's not like this girl might have been a bad person. Turns out later she's got a criminal record. There's all kinds of problems with her. But it's like Jenna just has such a good heart that she's not going to say no to take care of some homeless pregnant woman. So Jenna disappeared on August 19th. Let me give you the days going up to it. So she's at her parents' house Thursday, August 17th. She does have some friends over. They have a little small get together. Everything's fine, except for at the end of the evening, she does get into an argument with the pregnant girl. It is reported that the pregnant girl was doing heroin in her parents' home, and they ended up in an altercation out in the front yard, and she asked the girl to leave. So why are you around these people? And I know this is why her parents were worried, because why are you hanging out with people like this? The next morning, Friday, August the 18th, Will comes over in the morning around 9 a.m. to give the cat the medication, and he talks to his sister, Jenna. Everything's fine. She's in a great spirits. So whatever had happened the night before has obviously rolled over. She's fine. She's not talking about it, and everything seems to be completely fine. Same thing at 2 p.m. when the vet tech comes by to give the cat the medication. Everything's fine. Jenna responds to another post on Facebook, still looking to find a new roommate, saying specifically that she was looking for somewhere to move into on September 1st. Around 5 p.m., Will phoned Jenna, chatted with her. Again, everything's fine. There was nothing to worry about. She's not expressing anything going on. She's not saying she's really going anywhere. She mentioned she's hanging out around the house. Everything seems to be moving along as it should be. Now, this evening timeline is a little back and forth, but I believe that around 6 p.m., she does head over to her own apartment. So she heads over there and hangs out for a while. It is reported that that pregnant girl was there. They chat. Everything's fine with them. They get along. Like whatever happened the night before is rolled over. They're letting it go. That friend apparently gets an Uber and leaves. And she says that when she leaves, that Jenna was getting ready to take off and go meet someone or head back to her own house. But everything didn't seem like there was anything in distress to worry about. Also, throughout this time, she's in complete communication with both of her parents, sending pictures of Jessie the cat to her mom. Nothing to worry about. Now, around 10:30, 11, this gets a little bit questionable, okay? There are reports that when she was leaving her apartment, that she was going to meet someone. It's kind of hard to figure out what her plan was from other people, but we do know that around 10:30 to 11, because her cell phone shows she was at her apartment until about 10:30. At around 10:30, 11, she does go to her boyfriend's house. Now, this boyfriend is somebody that she has known for a long time. She met him while working at the pet store. I believe he was working security there. But I'm a little confused because let's just go ahead and do it now. There is another man that is also in the picture. When her parents went through her records, actually it was her brother because he's very techie and he gets into a lot of her information. He's able to access her records. Her mom was a co-signer in her bank account, so they can get into that. Like they have access to her information. They do find that she was Western Unioning, sending money via Western Union in small amounts over the past couple of years. And it ends up being this guy that she's sending money to, who her friends ends up saying that, I gotta say it now, there's no names for anyone. Is that not annoying? I'm sorry, I have no names. So I'm like, this guy, that guy. But not the boyfriend, but maybe this other guy. They had a relationship, but she had broken it off because he had gotten kind of physical with her. But then she's dating this other guy, the boyfriend, and there's not a lot of information on him as well. I know, I'm so frustrated too. So we'll get to the boyfriend and what his story was in a little bit, but there is some mixing and mingling of different people with no names to work with, so it's very hard to look up what's factual about them. But there's just this mix of men. That was rude.
You want to go beat him up?
Yeah.
Go stop him down the street.
Yeah. So now we get to Saturday, and Will calls Jenna at about 9 o'clock in the morning to check in with her, and she's not answering. So he's like, oh, that's kind of weird. And so he goes ahead and goes by the house so he can go ahead and take care of the morning medication for the cat. And he notices the cat hasn't been fed. So he's like, oh, okay, maybe she took off or something. You know, she'll be back. It's not a big deal. And so he goes ahead and feeds the cat. He kind of looks around. The lights are on. The TV's on. And he's like, okay, she'll be right back. Like, he hangs around for like an hour. She's not back. And he's like, okay, I'm going to take off. So then he gets a phone call around 2 p.m. from the vet tech. And he's like, hey, I'm here to give the cat the medication and Jenna's not here. And he's like, no, there's no way Jenna would be there. Like, she's always reliable. And he's like, no, she's not here. So they're calling Jenna. Jenna's not answering. They're like, okay, that's really weird. So the brother ends up heading over there. They get the medication and he's kind of like, yeah, this just isn't okay. He waits because he's just like, okay, maybe Jenna's got caught up. Like, something's not right. Eventually he notices not only are all the lights on and is the TV on, but he goes upstairs and he notices the most odd thing he can even try to fathom. This part literally is so weird. On the wall, the family had this family heirloom. It was a tapestry inside of a frame. Now, this tapestry was huge, 5 foot long, 2 feet wide. It's massive, and it's in a big oak frame with glass in the front of it. It looks like it would be valuable. It turns out it's only worth a couple $100s. Mostly this is a sentimental family heirloom. It came from Egypt. It's an Egyptian tapestry, and their grandfather had brought it back, I believe, during World War II. So it's a very important family heirloom that they had in this frame. And they notice that the glass is there and the frame is there, but the tapestry's gone. So that's when Will's like, okay, what's going on? Why is the tapestry missing, but nothing else is missing in the house? Now, here's what is crazy. They end up noticing a couple days later when they remove the frame, the tapestry had been carefully cut out of the frame, but the glass was broke, but only in a corner. And so it's like the glass had broke out and maybe they pulled the tapestry out and then they put that piece of glass back, or maybe it's really weird. But according to her family, the thing to know about Jenna is she is 4'11" and maybe 130 pounds. They don't even fathom how she would have been able to get this big thing off of the wall, and then to remove it, they don't understand why. I was kind of curious. I know that the family said, I listened to an interview with her father, and he said that they looked on eBay and things like that for similar, because this is a custom piece, for something similar, and it's only worth about $200. I'm kind of curious when they looked that information up. After she went missing, or did the family always know that this tapestry was only worth about couple $100, or was there ever a time that the family might have thought that this item was worth a lot of money? Because it kind of lends, is there a chance that somehow Jenna got this off the wall and removed this tapestry in order to try and sell it so that she could run away? It's important to know that they have never found any sighting of this being listed for sale. It has never been recovered. They've never found this tapestry. So as they're looking around the house, they also notice that her suitcase is gone, and her car. Now, she hadn't been driving her car. She had been driving her mother's car because her insurance was lapsed on her car. She had been driving her mom's car. But now her car was gone and her suitcase. However, near the front door was her like regular favorite daily shoes that she'd wear. You know, you got that pair of old shoes that you always wear. They're not your only pair, but you always have them. Those were there. Then they go up into the bathroom, and Jenna had these little things that she did, her little oddities that were personal to her. And she always carried her toiletries in grocery bags. And so she had her makeup in there, and everything was in grocery bags. And the grocery bag with all of her toiletries and makeup was sitting on the counter still. They also found that both of her chargers to these two phones were at home. So they're like, okay, why would she take off with her suitcase without like these three valuable items that you would picture that you would grab first? Like, I would grab my toiletries, I'd grab my shoes, I'd grab my chargers. And it was weird that those items were still at the house. Will ends up calling his parents, and they end up getting a flight back on the 21st, and they fly back. And their hope is that they get back and they find that she's at home. And when they got back, that's when they really discovered all the things that were still at the house, and how odd it was that if somebody had broken in and stole things, that they only took the tapestry, that if she wanted to take off, that she would leave her chargers and her makeup. It was just wasn't making a lot of sense to them. They end up filing a police report. Now, police, she's an adult. She took off. Sorry. She has her car in her purse. Like, what do you want me to do? Unfortunately, they just didn't take it seriously. And for the parents trying to get through to police to explain, like, no, this isn't normal for her. She's very reliant on her family. Even though she tried to have a secret life, she was in constant daily contact with her parents or her brother at all times. She relied on them. She strived on routine. So while she might have been making choices that were odd, she had a routine that she followed, and they knew what was going on with her, but trying to relay that information was very difficult. On September 5th, her car was found. Her 2010 blue Mazda 6 was found about 7 miles from the family's home. There was a passerby, and I think this is really important to point this out. A woman had seen the Facebook post that Jenna was missing with the description of her car, and the woman was on the way to the gym, and she saw this car and immediately phoned it in for a tip to say, like, I think I found Jenna's car. And that's why it's so important. Share those posts you guys see on Facebook. Share them. I know you think that, like, nobody's listening, nobody's watching, nobody clicks like on them. It doesn't matter. Keep sharing them, because these is how cases are getting solved. So she sees this car, and police do go out and inspect the vehicle. It's a little unclear about how much they inspected the vehicle, because it was immediately returned to the family 2 weeks later, and the family found things inside of the car, including boxes of evidence were still in the trunk. Inside of the car, they did find her suitcase, and they did find her clothing, and they found her purse. Her cell phones were not in the car. They described that the compartments in the car were open. There were leaves and debris all over the top of the car. And inside of the car, it seemed like everything was kind of strewn apart. And they also found a pair of shoes that did not belong to Jenna, as well as a cell phone charger that did not belong to either of Jenna's phones. So it made you kind of have a question. On top of that, the passenger seat was slid all the way back, which was abnormal for Jenna's car. So it just kind of makes you wonder, like, who was in that car with her? Because somebody had to be in that car with her because of the seat being slid back, the shoes, the cell phone charger that doesn't belong to her, the car getting parked where it got parked. It doesn't seem like something, if you were going to leave your home and take off to start a new life, you take your car, you only park it 7 miles away, and then you leave your suitcase and your purse, but you take your cell phone. Not making a lot of sense. I will get into her cell phone when it shut off because all of her social media, digital media, copies of everything she did does shut off that night. And there's no longer a trace of her on anything. I'll give you the times in just a second. Let's talk about the theories because I need to explain these people. So the boyfriend, okay? The one that she saw that night, the one she'd been dating. So police go and interview this guy. He says that, yeah, that Jenna showed up at his place that night and that he broke up with her that night. He broke up with her because she was a drug addict and a prostitute. That's what he told police. This led, on top of the fact that it was never verified, never proven, not one friend had, said that they even thought this was possible. Her parents ended up with full access to her phone. They got into her email, they got into her apps, they got into everything, and they did not find any evidence of this happening. There wasn't excess of money. She wasn't acting erratic. They did not see any evidence that she was a drug addict and a prostitute. But this is what this man was saying about her, and it caused a lot of trouble. So Will, the brother, was the one that was using his technologically savvy side to get into her phone and to get into her apps. And one of the things that he had found is that she had all of these apps that you could use for texting people. And because he had found that, and then people said she was a prostitute, or the guy said he was a prostitute, it got into the media saying that Will, her brother, was saying she was a prostitute. No, it was not him. He never said that. I think it's more flashback to 2017, WhatsApp and all those different apps that came out for texting. And I know for the most part, it was mostly kids and young adults. But I think this would fit into something that Jenna would do. If everyone on Facebook has all these apps for texting and she's kind of still in that thinking of doing what everyone else is doing, I could see her downloading multiple of them, even if she's not really using them. And that's what I tend more to believe. Now, this got even worse. Police ended up going on to the website Backpage.com. Do we know what Backpage is? Do I have to explain this? It was a website where you could find escorts. Just locally, just be like, oh, that one looks good. Come to my house. Whatever they do on it. So they go on Backpage, which is not allowed anymore because, I don't know, trafficking. Anyways, they go on this website and they find a prostitute by the name of Jenna. And they end up going to arrest this Jenna and they bring her in and they call the parents and say, hey, we arrested Jenna. It wasn't her. So the next day, Leon, her father, calls the police station to check on Jenna because, it's his daughter. And they're like, oh, no, sorry, wrong Jenna. It was just another prostitute named Jenna. And then the police end up doing a news conference saying that they never told the family that they had arrested Jenna. But I don't know why they just came up with that on their own or how they knew you had a Jenna from Backpage in your jail cell. But apparently they said that, no, they never said that. So, yeah, very heartbreaking for the family because they thought that Jenna had been found. The other thing about that boyfriend is that he kept changing his stories. He said originally that Jenna was at his house at about 10 p.m. But then when police eventually looked at her cell phone records and realized she was still at her own apartment at 10:30, then he changed the story to 11. There was just a lot of things about him that, aside from the fact that he said that he broke up with her and she was a prostitute and he was the last person to see her, that seems to be enough for me. But there is evidence that Jenna did return to her parents' home. Because at around 1 a.m., she has a phone call with a friend of hers from South Carolina. So they chat on the phone, and I'm going to go on two different ways on this because originally I was like, this is sus as can be. I said it again. Sus. I'm not hanging out with the kids anymore. Suspicious as can be because I read in multiple stories and listened to many podcasts that said that she did not even mention to this friend about this breakup with a boyfriend. And you would think she would have mentioned that. But when I listened to, it was in Shauna's video. Shauna had interviewed Will, the brother of Jenna. And in that interview, it had said that she did talk to the friend about the breakup. Okay, so I'm not really sure if that's what happened. Then, I don't know, kind of changed it a little bit. So she talks to this friend for a little bit, and then awkwardly, she texts her friend at 2 a.m. and is like, going to lay down. The friend did find that when asked later if they... I think we have to shut my window. Now, when asked about this text message later, the friend did say that the text message was odd because she would have expected more wording from Jenna. You know, you have some friends that send short text, that's me. And then you have some friends that send multi-text, and then some friends that send long text, like, you know, your friends. And she did feel like that was an awkward, short statement to come from Jenna, kind of leaving open the idea that maybe someone else sent the text message. Just adding it in that there was a theory about that. Let's keep going with possible people that have been looked at. The roommate, again, another unnamed male. So she's living with this roommate. On the lease, not on the lease, whatever it is, but she's with this guy. So the family end up contacting him. They took him some time. They figure out where she's living. They figure out who the guy is, and they go and they talk to him. And he's like, yeah, she's behind on rent, so I was just going to put her stuff outside. And my understanding is the rent he's talking about she was behind on was September. She had been missing since the middle of August, and this guy's going to put her stuff outside because she hadn't paid September rent. Super great class of people. No wonder she was trying to move. On top of that, he would not let police search the apartment. Why? Like, what is your point? I have seen so many times when they go to do searches and people are always like, oh, maybe they had some like weed or drugs or something. Yeah, no, but it's a murder investigation or a missing person investigation. You can tell police like, hey, I need to go throw something away. They're not, it's not what they're there for. There's ways around that. Contact your attorney. Like, I don't understand not letting someone in to search for clues in a missing person. But he denied that. And then he returned all of the items to the family. The family gets these items back and they're looking through it and all of her stuff is there, but they're like, why is there no bedding? Where's her pillows? Where's her blankets? And police end up going back to this roommate and they ask him like, oh no, she slept on the floor with no blankets and no pillows. Yep, she slept on the floor with nothing. Friends of Jenna end up coming forward later and telling the family, like, no, that's not even true. She had an air mattress, and I think she even had a dresser. So that's really weird. They were never able to get access to this place. I read somewhere that they eventually did, like, way down the line, but they found nothing, of course, because it was way later. But that, again, I'm a little sketchy on that one as well. Another quandary is, who was having her steal money from the pet store? Okay, we can say that maybe it was her. Maybe she was doing it on her own. It just doesn't seem to be in her capacity, her wheelhouse of what she would normally do. It's most likely that somebody coerced her into it. So who was it? Who was it at this pet store? Was it a supervisor? Was it that guy, the other guy that got rough with her, that she was Western Unioning, sending money via Western Union to? There's like all these people, like, who was having her steal this money? Who got the money that she stole? If they didn't make her steal it, who took it? Like, it's so many questions. And so, again, unnamed, is it one of these people? There are so many possibilities of who it could have been. There were also so many troubles with the investigation. So the first problem was she had 2 cell phones. One cell phone was the Metro PCS cell phone, and it was registered in her name, but with the name backwards. They had a lot of trouble getting into those records. And then police had to subpoena and all of that to get into that. Now, her T-Mobile phone, this was so frustrating to her father. It is his phone. He owns that phone number. That is his bill. So he has all authority to give access to it. So he's trying and it's just dragging. And he's like, I've already signed the paperwork. I've done everything. Like, get her records. I don't understand what you guys are doing. Police were contacting AT&T instead of T-Mobile. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, sorry, we looked it up and it said AT&T was the original, owner of that phone number. So we just called AT&T and they didn't have anything. And the dad's like pissed because he signed the paperwork and wrote T-Mobile. I'm sure at this point he's already taken phone records as well. So he's just like, what is going on? Why aren't you taking this serious? This is why it's dragging forever. Now, at the same time, her brother Will, what he did was he took her phone number because they own it and he transferred it to another phone. So now he has the phone, and you guys know about this like two-factor. And you guys know about like two-factor authentication where they text you a new PIN and then you can reset your password on almost every app you have. That's what they did. They used her phone to reset all of her passwords so they could get into her accounts. Then they were able to get into her Gmail and they were able to see her entire timeline of her GPS activity. Remember, we talked about this in my last video, guys. Make sure you have these things on. This is what her brother used to track her last bit of information. Unfortunately, police consider that illegally obtained information and were more worried that Jenna might sue them for accessing her information, and so they didn't use it. Incredibly frustrating. I know this is where we have too many laws and not enough laws. I don't even know. It's a missing person. Can't we just skirt some things? Like maybe you can't use it in a court of law, but you can use it to find someone. If my child is missing, I don't care what laws you break. We'll deal with whether or not you can prosecute the person later, but find my child. So it was very frustrating to them that they have this information, but they don't know what to do with it, and police are not helping them. So they were literally running a complete social media campaign. They were out there, they were doing searches, they were posting posters, everything they could to try and find Jenna. What they were able to confirm is that her Metro PCS phone pinged in Fairburn, which is 20 miles from her home, on August 19th at 7:15 a.m. At the same time, her car was being read by a reader thing in Atlanta. So you know how like cop cars or meter cars, I don't know we don't have parking meters here. So whatever those cars that drive around and like check to make sure you're not parked there too long in like those cities that have that. So those cars, one of them drove by and it picked up her license plate. Now, because she wasn't missing at the time or anything like that, it didn't do anything. It just read it and moved on. But it did show that her phone and car were already separated from each other. Her family was also able to get into her spending records, into her bank account, because her mother was still a co-signer on her bank account. Can you see how much this family was doing this on their own? All of this information they obtained. All of this came from them having a social media campaign to find her car, to get her GPS records, to get her cell phone records, to get her banking records. This family was not giving up. They knew that Jenna did not just leave. When they got into her banking records, they were able to say that on Friday, her last transaction, she went to a Wendy's and several gas stations. And since then, there has been no transactions, even though her wallet is still missing. I feel like I just like gave you guys, like I just spit so much information at you. The thing is that Jenna did not run away. She did not take off. She was dependent on her family. She could have absolutely decided to take off for a weekend or take off for a week. She wouldn't do that to her cat. I know that seems like, people like, it's just a cat. But no, this was a 21-year-old cat that she grew up with and loved and adored, changed her entire weekend plans so she could be there with that cat. She loved that cat. She wouldn't have risked its health by leaving it without any coverage to make sure it was getting food and its medication. It's just not in her being. It's not who she is. She's also very dependent on her family. She was in daily contact with at least one of them every single day. This was part of her routine. She didn't have a lot of money. There was people wondering, did she have money anywhere? They ran a credit check. They've checked. There's no other bank accounts. There was no other money. She didn't have a stash of anything. She didn't have things of value. I mean, her car, but they found her car. So it wasn't something that she would have done. She would not just take off for this long. And she also was really addicted to social media. She really was. And when you have that kind of personality, you don't just shut your social media off and never return at all. It's been years and she's never come back to her family. So there's a lot of questions. It is Atlanta. I hate to say this, but the idea of trafficking is absolutely a possibility. Do I think that Jenna is an ideal candidate for a trafficker? On one hand, yes, because she can be easily manipulated. But on the other hand, no, because she's not reliable in her manipulation, because she's not going to quite understand. So she's going to ask a lot of questions. Somebody who asks a lot of questions is not the ideal candidate, but I don't know that much about it. So there is that possibility, but more than likely it's someone in her life. It's one of these people. They wanted something from her. And I'm just so worried that either she took the tapestry out trying to repay something so that somebody wouldn't bother her. Maybe the roommate over the rent. Maybe a new roommate that she wanted to move in. Maybe the boyfriend, the security guard, the ex, any of these people. Maybe she did somehow take the tapestry out trying to pay them off. Maybe they came and she didn't have anything else, so they took the tapestry. But they left like valuable items in the home. There was a really nice TV right next to the tapestry. So all of these, just so many questions. It just doesn't make any sense. I think the one thing to know is that they have searched the whole area where her car was found, and there was never been any sight of her. They have not been able to find her. There was surveillance from a recording studio nearby, and her father has said that he's seen the tape, but he has not released what he saw on the tape. And that's kind of where it is. And it just sits kind of so many questions and so many unanswers. And yeah, I don't know what to do with that one. So that is the story I have for you guys on the disappearance of Jenna Van Gelderen. Please, especially if you were in the Georgia area, share her photo. She went missing in 2017 and there are still no answers. The last I saw, the reward is at least $50,000. There's a Facebook group dedicated that her family runs to helping find her. And then I will link all of the information to the police department. The GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, as well the FBI did eventually get involved in this case. So I will have all of that information for you guys as well. Yep, that's what I have for you guys. So I actually do have a massive announcement for you guys, and I'm going to do it on Friday. Friday, we're going to go live. We're going to go Friday night, glass of wine, join me. It's not going to be like really like, not scheduled. What's the word I'm looking for? Structured. I have some updates on some cases. I have some random stories to tell you guys. We'll see where it goes, but I have a massive announcement to tell you guys on Friday. So join me on Friday. I think we'll do it 6 p.m. Pacific. Is that a good time?
Yeah.
It's not too late for the East Coast. It's probably like 3 o'clock in the morning but make it work. Yeah. Join me anyways. All right. So join me on Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Please. I would love it. I do have a big announcement to tell you guys I'm excited about. So join me for that. Other than that, it's the end of my video. So I say this at the end of every one of my videos. Hug your babies and hug your loves. Life is literally precious. Enjoy every minute of every day and do not take anything for granted. Make sure you hit subscribe, like, comment. I have to move my table. I love you and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.